Welcome to Sunday School Junkie, the podcast for anyone who's addicted to reaching kids for the kingdom. Whether you're a brand new volunteer, a veteran teacher, or just looking for inspiration, this is the place for tips, tricks, and stories from the best in apostolic children's ministry. Let's talk shop, share resources, and celebrate the incredible opportunity we have to shape young lives for Jesus. Now let's get started. All right, welcome back to our Route Ministry Roundtable. Everyone is worth the effort. Today we're going to talk about seeds, sacrifice, and success. In part one, we met these ladies that got their start Route Ministry, picking up kids for Sunday school. In part two, we heard a lot of the stories about the funny, chaotic, and moving stories of reaching kids. And in part three, we're going to go a little deeper. We're going to talk about what does success look like in routes, what lessons could only be learned on a route. How can Sunday school leaders, department leaders better support the ones going after the kids that nobody else is looking at? As Dr. Seuss, go back to our quote, you have to go places no others can get to. You have to get cold, you have to get wet too. But what you'll find there just might change your life. All right, just a couple more things here. For department leaders that might be listening, I'm going to put myself on the spot here, y'all. What can department leaders do to better support route ministry, bus ministry, their teams that are going out there?
At least pray.
Alicia's like, now you ask.
No, I did not. I just don't know.
I can say, like, when a lot come to church, it would really benefit bus routes to, if, maybe not every service, because that is a big sacrifice, but offer yourself to sit by a few maybe to help, because, we want, like, order and structure in the church service, of course, and sometimes not all, but sometimes you do get some that, they just don't know how to be or act, and we're training, just like with our own.
Now, that's more specific for, like, our format. That's really, really, really good. And I think it's been good because we've struggled with it, but then we've had others that have, like Sister Lori, that would go sit with them, or we'd break them into groups. I like personally, as much as we can, to get our kids that come on the routes to go sit on that front pew with the kids that are in their class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's more our format probably than most traditional Sunday schools, where they come, they go to class, they go home. Here, they come, they go to kids' church and class, and then we go downstairs for worship together. Mm-hmm. And it can get tough. It can be a challenge if we're not on top of it. So yeah, we got to be real good about that.
It's off subject, but one thing I really loved is when I brought different kids. I brought Lupe and Asa and all of them. But what was one cool thing on Fridays is the way that the youth, I'll never forget, Joseph John did that. And Joseph was always like, hey, man, how are you? Come sit with me. And that is one thing that I know that my kids had said, that it made the difference. Like Asa, I'll never forget. He's like, man, and Asa was a goof. He straight up was a goof. And he had a good heart. He really did. But he
was super cool.
Loved laughter. Like he was just like that. But like the way that the youth loved my babies coming in, and you drop them off on Friday because they're totally like, I don't know what I'm doing, but the way that they love them in and like, hey, come sit with me. Man, I'm so glad you're here,
It's cool because
so we got to find the key youth to connect to bridge that gap. To me, that's like the biggest gap and the biggest hurdle to overcome is how do we get them after they're aging out of Sunday school? How do we keep them plugged in?
So I always just, hey, this is Brother Lansall, and he's going to be your youth leader. And, like, that's how I would merge them because they're like, I don't know them. And it was like, no. And I know we got a little boy who he's not a little boy. His name is Jason.
Yep.
And he is 11 years old. Yep. And he is phenomenal. He is a phenomenal boy. He got the Holy Ghost, I think,
just got the Holy Ghost, yep.
Yeah. And I went up to him and I was like, hey, because I originally thought he came with another boy.
Yep.
And I got there, one was 10 and one was 11. I was like, hey, man, you could be in Catricity. Well, then I meet Jason's mom, which is Regina.
Yep.
And she's like, man, he's changed. He's got everything. But then I was like, hey, I want you to, and I want to introduce you to Brother Lansaw. Like, he's over the youth, and, you know, you just talk it all up. He's like, I don't know. And so then you're like, no. And then so you go and get Brother Lansaw. I was like, hey, you've got to meet this dude. This dude is like one incredible dude. And, you know, just try to merge them as much as you can. And then you get those ones that you know are solid, that are, I'm not going to say like we don't have a great youth group, because we do, but it's the ones awesome. That I'm like, hey, I want you to pick up some of this stuff, or these traits, you know. And that was just one thing,
connecting the right ones.
Yeah, it's connecting them.
It's like little Addie. She's been helping so much with that little girl I've been bringing.
She stuck her underneath her wing today.
She really did, and like I kind of stuck her with her the first day she came, because she was like under my arm, and I was like, "Go be with the girls." And it's cool because they've really formed a good like little friendship. And,
yes. Well, Addie,
that's what keeps them coming.
Yes, it does. Addie cracked me up. I was like, hey. And she gave me a hug, and she's like, I was like, who's your friend? She goes, I don't know. She's just here, but yeah, here we go. You know? And I was just like, okay. But I mean, that's totally Addie, though. I mean, that is, she has that, she has that ability, you know, and she's got the laughter, and she's like, you know, it is. And nothing really gets Addie. I mean, like, if she stumbles, she's like, did you like the show? You know, and she just keeps going. You know?
It is type attitude, yeah.
That was one thing I always enjoyed, is if I had an idea, I could bring it to you guys, and I'd be like, look, I know it sounds stupid, and you guys like never shot it down. Like, I remember when you guys like looked at me and just been like, okay. Okay.
Well, here's one. So I asked that question about, you know, supporting from a leadership perspective, and it's because any harebrained idea I've had from Sunday school teaching through leading the Sunday school department, bishop, pastor, it's never been like a no. Like, we've done almost everything we've ever dreamt, come up with. And so, you know, you want to support that. From a creative perspective, like, you have no idea what's going to work. So there's a lot of things that we may try, and maybe it does work, maybe it doesn't work. But yeah, if you got a burden for something, we want to support it.
Usually the crazy ideas are the ones that work.
I got two more things I want to ask, and we'll be done. What has bus ministry taught you, maybe about God or whatever, that you don't think you would have learned any other way?
Perseverance, for sure.
Perseverance.
Yeah. Doing it even when
it's hard.
It's really hard. And even when it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Probably the sacrifice, because you do sacrifice, and people who have never been in bus ministry don't know the sacrifice, because you sacrifice of your time, you sacrifice of your family, you sacrifice of your finances, and then you also sacrifice of your fellowship whenever it comes to church time, because you can't fellowship like you would normally fellowship, because you're corralling kids, or you've got to make sure your babies are not doing something crazy or doing backflips and running around the church, like, you know, or fighting or this or that, you know. And so probably sacrifice.
Perseverance, sacrifice.
Just that everyone is worth the effort.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because you never know what the little bit of time that you worked at the water
Softener company,
softener place, that was your window to get Whitney.
Right.
And you don't know Michael's a preacher now, and you brought him. And Lillian and George are just pillars in the church now. I mean, you don't know
who you're bringing,
what God has in store for these people, for these kids, the parents. I mean, all of them. They're just worth it.
Good stuff.
It does make you like look at people differently. It really does, because they're just, you know, everyone has a story, but there's just some where you're like, wow, like God literally plucked you and put you right here, you know? And he does that with everybody, but
potential is something that you can't see. You can't see. You have no clue what's there. You know, those seeds, they get buried in the ground. You can't see what's happening. But before long, there's a little sprout. But that sprout, there's all these roots underneath there that's so much bigger than that little thing poking out of the ground. And then it finally grows, and then you get this big tree. And then what is that? That tree then starts producing more and more and more. And it's that potential that you don't see in an acorn or in a pecan or whatever, whatever. It's just, all right, last question, I think. This is good because, like, listen, we've talked about sacrifice and how much time and how much money and how much tears and how much pain and how much resistance and how much fighting you got to do, right? Like, that could be overwhelming to somebody, but it's not really, right? I mean, so if somebody's listening to this is the first time, or they're thinking about bus ministry, or they're just figuring this out, all that stuff we talked about, what do you really hope that they walk away with?
That it's worth it. When your heart is in it and you see the difference that you're making in those babies, you don't see the sacrifice until you start asking these questions and you're starting to reflect. You're like, okay, yes, we did this. Yes, we did that. And that's when you start realizing all the sacrifice. But when you're in it at that time, you're going, you're in that race. It doesn't matter like what you're doing. Like your sole purpose is to get these babies into the presence of God.
If you feel like God is leading you to that, like to that directly, like that bus route is something that God is putting on your heart, don't sit on it and do it.
He said yes. God said yes. It's worth it. God's telling you yes. Lindsey, what you got?
I remember, totally off subject here, but you had asked that because Joseph had asked me, he's like, hey, it's like, I got something. And I'm like, okay. He's like, I feel like God is doing this, but I don't know what to do. And it was like, dude, do it. Like, do it.
Do it.
And he was like, what do you do? And I was like, grab you some chips, grab you some candy, grab a can of pop. I'll meet you. Like, do it. And he was like, I don't know how to do it. And he's like, can you go with me? Like, yeah, let's go. And you go up and you meet, because, I mean, it is intimidating knocking on a door, but I practice in front of a mirror. And it was like, hey, I'm Lindsey. We're starting a new route over on this side, Do you have any kids available? And I remember him just like looking, and I had my daughter.
It is so scary in the beginning because you're like, going to someone's door and not knowing who's going to answer. It is, but
it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, and that's such a good point right there. Is like so many people have the desire and the want, but they're scared. Yeah. And you just have to get out there and really just do it, because
the first time you knock on the door is the hardest.
It is, and like it's like what Lindsey said earlier. It may be a couple of weeks.
Months.
Until you get your first one
months.
Or two.
It wasn't weeks, it was months.
Or you may, go to a door and then have 7 kids
or no kids.
And it might work out like bam, So it just all depends, but
and make sure you come prepared.
Like just keep your heart right and know like you're doing this for God.
Yeah.
Like it's just for God.
Make sure you have a clipboard that has a pen and a name, because you're going to need their name. You're going to need their first name, their last name, their age, their phone number, and their parents' name. And if you do that and you're ready, because it never fails. It never fails. Like if I came prepared, it was like it may not have gone great, but if I didn't come prepared, because I'm a trial and test, does this really work? Does this not? And I remember like if we weren't prepared, that was the time that we were going to get slammed with everybody. And when we dropped them off, you would always ask, you got names? You got phone numbers? Is your stuff up to date? And it was just always like, ooh. And I remember a couple of times I'm like, I don't have a name. I don't have a number. It was like, what happens if this is going to happen? And it was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. But that was one thing. And like, I mean,
it is the hardest thing.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think I even had a couple of people that wasn't their name. That wasn't their name, but that's what they told me.
That's what they told me. Andrea said it'd take us a long time to figure out.
We didn't have any idea. It was just like, okay.
I don't even, what did we call him for the longest time? Ricky or something?
We did have Ricky.
There was a name.
And I ended up getting really close to his grandma, Wheezy, too. Yep.
I remember Dario.
How do you forget Grandma Weezy?
I love her.
She was so cool.
She made somebody a crochet blanket. Was it you?
She made Nathan when I let it go.
She made him a crocheted blanket, and it was a grandma from our bus route.
Yep. She made him
you mentioned taking Nathan earlier with you.
Uh-huh.
And you mentioned taking Alicia. And I wanted to mention...
I took kids. I don't bring different
Lindsey
kids.
Borrowed kids.
Yeah.
Emma and Mason would go out with you.
No, not Emma. Mason always went with me, which was so
Okay,
crazy.
Emma wasn't
is
around
because
then, but Mason.
I remember going on a date with Steak and Shake, and Mason was like 3, and he'd be like, "Excuse me, sir. Excuse me," and it never failed. It was always the older folks, and he'd be like, "Do you know Jesus?" And it was like 70, yes, 70 years old, and I remember, like, Brother Lance will be like, he never does that with me, but like we would go to the apartments, and he'd be like,
Yep.
Knocking on the door.
and it was great. But and then I borrowed some Addie and Samuel.
There you go.
They would go with me, and then when Emma got older, she would go with me on Saturday or on Sundays. We would drop them off. But I mean, I always just grabbed kids because parents were great.
See, I think that's a pro tip
The
right
kids,
there. Bring a
the
kid
kids
with you when you want to start
gravitate to
outreaching.
kids, and there were,
Yeah.
a few times where Nate was like, "Hey, man, you
Yeah.
go to Sunday school anywhere?
Yeah.
You know, come with mom and dad."
Or just be like, "Hey, why don't you come sit with me?" And that was always really great. Yeah. In fact, my daughter and we were knocking doors the other day, and she was like, she was really excited, and it kind of checked me because I was like, I haven't really knocked doors a lot with her like I had with Mason in the past, and I was just like, ooh. But then my daughter was going up there, and I mean, like, she wanted to not, but I mean, like, she wouldn't hide, but she'd just be like, hi. But she wanted to hang that flower or that little door hanger that we got, the new ones, and how excited kids are to know that. I mean, she was mad because we only hit 20 houses. She wanted to hit like 5 blocks, and I'm like, okay, well.
Million houses in Oklahoma City. Let's go hit them, Mama.
But I mean, like, kids, it really means a lot because they know, like, hey, I went and knocked on a door. I did that. And how great they are at, okay, you get this house, but then you get this house. But then don't do that house. And then how like, excited they are.
There's a faith. There's a faith that's there.
The kids have major faith.
They don't have all that hurt that
No, and they forgive so easy. They're like,
discouragement that-
whatever.
They don't care if they get a door slammed in their face. They're like,
Or a
okay,
chihuahua.
on to the next.
I was going to say, you probably get less door slammed in your face if you have a little kid.
That's true.
Sometimes, yeah.
kids help.
Oh, she has a story.
So I remember I had Jordan, and I think I had Emily. I call her Little Mama. And there was this house. And, like, it looked crazy, but it didn't look crazy. But it had, like, layers underneath it. And I remember going up, and they were, like, all excited to go. And I knock on the door, and, like, this guy opens the door, and he's like, hello. And I was like, ah! Hi. And then the little boy, I think it was Jordan's just like, hey, you want to come and go to Sunday school? And the guy just like, like he's all ready to bark, and he did bark, and then he stops, becomes like a little chihuahua, and it's just like, okay, and it was just like, it's really cool.
You just reminded me a little bit of us going up to a house. I can't remember where it was, but I remember there was this house we went up to, and I was pretty sure the plywood was going to cave in every time I went to go knock on the door.
Yes.
And I was like,
Booby
oh,
trap.
hold it, Jesus. So funny.
And then just check with Brother Pelletier before you start going in certain areas
Yes.
because
You have to be careful.
you do have to be careful. And I may or may not have knocked some doors that could have been a little scary because it was a certain neighborhood
Got to protect our kids.
that only allowed certain individuals that committed certain crimes and stuff in that neighborhood, but it's not labeled, so, and we had no
From
idea.
the outside in, you don't realize it.
No.
You don't
So
realize it. But
just
yeah, there's
check with Brother Pelletier before you start going out in certain areas.
to your point about why we have routes, boundaries, is because we do check. We want to be safe. One, I want you all safe because honestly, women do a lot of routes.
Well, I think we also diffuse.
It looks better.
Yeah,
It just looks better. And
but we do want you protected and safe. And along with that, we've got to protect the kids that come. And so there are neighborhoods in our city and probably every city where those that are offenders flock to. And I don't want you being put in that situation, and I don't want our kids to be put in a situation where we get a crazy guy that preys on your kids on your route.
Yeah,
So that's the whole thought process. And it's not just to keep you from.
It's not just rules. There's actually a reason. There's a boundary, and there's a layer behind it. It's protection.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
That was actually something, like you got to be able to, be flexible and think outside the box if you're going to work with bus route, because things change, things change. It can't always just stay, one way. It's really important, what might work for one group of bus kids.
This doesn't say we all work differently.
May not work for another, and you just learn that with each different. It's like when if you work in a class every year, you work in a class, you get different kids, so it's a different personality. It's a different set of littles, and that applies the same to.
And what worked
a
when I
bus
was
route.
doing the route when I first got in church almost 30 years ago. Some of that probably won't work now.
Yeah.
I mean, there
The love
needs to
is
be
still
some
there, yeah.
adjustments and tweaks. And then, the languages these kids talk these days.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But, knowing some of that does help relate to them. And it changes.
You got the Riz and I'm Sigma.
Oh my word!
I was going to say that's.
bruh.
If I hear the word Sigma one more time.
I guess I don't know what that. I mean, I'm old school. What is it?
You don't have.
She's on the in between.
Or Riz.
I say
Yeah.
Riz is like what, Frizz?
Riz is
No,
like
Riz
got
is
the,
charisma.
like
got it
the,
going on?
yeah, you got to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Sigma is you're the leader. You're the
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
the dude.
crazy talk.
Ohio.
Oh my!
Not so much.
Oh, it's not like the state Ohio.
No.
No.
See?
No.
Yeah, no. We
It's a
work with a bunch of
whole
kids, so
nother
it's
language.
like, yeah.
This just went downhill real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I always did enjoy different things and like the parks. You know how we did that. I think I came to
Block
you guys
party?
and I was like, "Hey,
Yes, the block
can I do
party
this?"
is so awesome.
And
Those
I mean,
help a lot.
that was one
Been
thing
too
I
long
really
since we've
enjoyed
done
was
one.
having leaders that I mean, because I was accountable to you guys. You had an accountability you had to fill out every Sunday, and like sometimes you guys would get on us and be like, "Look, this is what you got to have," but you guys were doing it in love.
And I will say, if you are new to bus route, the best time to establish one is in the summer because kids are home, mom and dad need a break,
Hit up a park.
and there's just that is when you build your bus route. When the weather gets warm, you can where the kids live because their bikes are in front of their house, so that's how you look, but that's my opinion. I mean, I think it's just a lot easier to build a bus route that way.
I don't know. I guess I could reminisce on things like I guess I forgot it until I was like, "Oh man, you guys remember when we did that?" Or like when I don't know if he was doing routes then or not, but when everything got flopped on routes, you guys remember that? We all switched.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? And then like what normally worked, like it threw all of us, and you had to learn how to rework with someone. But
Oh
not
yeah,
only
when we
that,
switched
like,
up partners.
it-
Yeah.
Well, no, like I remember the kids, and like how much they meant.
That
It
built
was like,
character right there.
Yeah, because you start going, no, those are my babies. Why
You
are they
get
not here?
very,
Why,
very
did they not go
territorial.
out Saturday?
Yeah.
Did that, and you start, and that's, it could have been a devil's tool too, like starting to question your teammates. They're like, wait, I just built this route and now you're ripping it from me. But it's like you get this possessiveness that those are my kids, not their, and so it's
Relationship.
it is.
It
You
is a
build
relationship,
that.
but then also it's crazy on like from your guys' perspective, of like I remember when you guys said it down, I was like, hey, I'm feeling really like I've prayed about this, and it's like I didn't get that at all. But are you going to be submitted?
No.
Like are you going to be submitted? Because what it boils down to is I can do whatever I want, but what does the Pelletier say?
And
what
honestly,
does my leader say?
as much as I hated it in that time,
It built
it's
a
crazy because now me jumping in and out, like, trying to build bus route, it has helped me to understand this is so much bigger and greater than me.
Yes.
Like, hello, this is for someone else to take on, And so it did help because now if you build a route, it's not as hard for me to say, hey, take this, build it, do something with it, versus, no, it's mine and I'm going to stick,
It's got to be done my way. Or
Yes. Now,
Comes down to
It does-
his kingdom,
yes.
not ours.
Yes.
You can't be a Karen on a bus route. You cannot be a Karen on a bus route. Like you can't, Because if you are, then you're going to have little Karens. And you want them. I mean, seriously, because my job, or how I took it as is, it's not just me. I want you to fall in love with God.
Yep.
But I also want you to fall in love with your Sunday school teachers. And I don't even think people realize, when I would drive them home, and I would always be like, okay, how was Sunday school? I do it with my kid. How was Sunday school? What did you learn today? And I remember Tamara and Amber. Lupe loved them. And I remember I'm driving her home. She lived off of May, and it was that deal right beside OnQ. And she was like, and she was crying. She's like, they actually really love me.
Yep.
And I was like,
you know what?
yeah.
We kind of got to wrap up, but that just reminded me,
sorry.
I want to ask.
I will hush up.
No, I don't want you to, but have you guys ever felt there's some places where they feel a separation
Yes, I know exactly.
between
Yes.
Sunday school and routes?
Yes.
I can't say that
Definitely.
I've ever felt
No.
it's I
there.
guess in some places the route can feel like, hey, I bring these kids and then the Sunday school classes
Right.
doesn't meet their expectations, or the Sunday school teachers can feel like, oh, the route people, they're just bringing me problems or whatever. I that doesn't sit in my head. I can't express that myself. But what you guys got thoughts?
So you take it, and then I'll tag team. You're good.
No, there have been times, not in a negative way, but, there are just some bus kids that we've picked up that were rough, and that's just part of it. And then we've had some really amazing, wonderful ones that are just so compliant and obedient, but, so, you do kind of feel like, because you're working with them and you're trying and they're here, but, maybe there's a little bit of a disconnect with or a problem that they had in Sunday school or something, but it could get discouraging, but, as time goes by, those things always kind of, I feel work itself,
Yeah, a lot
work
of
it
times
out.
some people don't realize how much effort we have put into finally getting this baby to come to Sunday school. We went for the last 3 Sundays. Oh yeah, I'll come. And then I'm sleepy, I'm tired, I'm this. And then finally that Sunday they come, and
maybe someone's not as kind or something.
yeah, and these it is a good thing to have teachers to go out with these routes so they see where these babies are coming from. They understand what kind of home they are coming from. So you're not that you're easier on them, but you may need to give them that extra
You see
hug.
their perspective.
You may need to wrap your arms around them. Hey, I'm so glad you're here, because their parents could be hungover or drunk on the couch and have no idea where their babies are. And that's the party life is all these babies have ever seen. And then you're coming in and going, oh, it's okay. Hey, I got you, And so, yeah, they're going to be a little bit disruptive, but that's what they know. That's all they know how to express themselves. I'm not going to lie, this past week, because I work for a fundraiser company, and so I go to all these little public schools. And I went to a public school last week, and Riley and I walked in the school, and I saw one of the children that were in my Sunday school class. He was sitting on the bench outside. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, you staying out of trouble? And he was like, But it was just seeing those outside, you just get that relationship, and they know where the neighborhood, the area, because
When you see the little girl put on frozen pants, it's a little bit different than when she's walking into your classroom and she just stinks and doesn't behave right.
Right.
It's a whole
Versus
nother
you were there and you watched her pick those pants up off the porch.
That was one thing I really liked. My kids, and I think I picked up maybe 25, 30, maybe even 35. that one thing that they did is you guys quarterly had the teachers go meet my kids. And my kids would talk about that. But not only my kids, my parents would talk about that. And what it meant that they actually came to them.
Yeah.
They came to their door. And like it was just like, oh, you actually know me, you see me. You know? But on the question that you asked, I guess mine's a little bit different. I mean, I made it a deal. Like, I wanted us to have fun on the bus route, but I also wanted to know, I wanted to know how your brain worked. I'm one of those, everybody's got 5 love languages. And I always made it a point, okay, what is your love language? What is your love language? Are you a acts of service, or are you words of affirmation? Because if you're words of affirmation, I can't talk to you like I'm going to talk to you if you get in trouble. And so that was one thing. So like when I talked to my kids, I found out, and I later actually applied it when I was a Sunday school teacher, because everybody in the church, and I remember a setting, and nothing was wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the kids never thought of it that way. Of everybody's already here. Why? Because we all go to church here, right? So we all walk up to Sunday school together. But then the bus route kids don't always come in. They always sometimes run late. And so they would just be sitting by themselves, you know, and they didn't feel that because everybody else was already talking and giggling, and, you know, they didn't feel that
with their circle
connection.
Yeah.
And I remember like, okay, well, hold on now, wait a minute. And it wasn't the fact that the Sunday school teacher didn't try. And I remember one Sunday school teacher, Sister Cabe always had, as they said, a feast. She had a feast, Lindsey. And she had, they said it was just basically like Daniel. You know how like it was just piles of food, and how much that meant to them. And then, but I'll never forget, she had me a card. She had me a card, you know, and it was just like, man. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, Sister Cabe's amazing. But I think it was like 2 or 3 years later that I actually found out what they meant. And I was like, because I mean, like, she literally rolled it on out. Like, you are a king. Like, you are at a feast. And I was like, now I understand. It was a Valentine's party. She had little hearts. You got a heart, and then you got a card. But each kid had a handwritten card.
There you go.
And then you also had food. But I mean, it wasn't like a little like PB&J.
Right. She did it all.
I mean, like, you were like fancy.
You had a feast.
Yeah, you had a feast.
Dishes.
Yes.
Not paperware.
Not paper plates.
Yep.
But it was a big deal. And I just remember my kids. And so when I was 4th grade, I'll never forget, there were some kids that came in, and I remember, okay, hold on, I remember how my bus route kids felt. And so I always made it sure, okay, hey, everybody, I want you to sit here. And I made it a game. And I was able to do that where, and I remember, I probably shouldn't name names, but I remember Kiki and Cherish. And I remember when they would be like, oh. I'm like, no, hey, come on, everybody's part. And I always made sure to tell those kids, you belong every bit of here. God loves you. This is our pastor, you know, and I would always hit on Brother and Sister Pelletier, you know, those are your Super Sunday School tenants, you know, they love you, you know. And I don't know. I will hush now.
So good. We got to wrap up. Okay. I think we could keep going.
Yeah.
I think you got a lot of editing.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Is it already?
That's funny.
Oh, there we have it. We're wrapping it up. Route Ministry teaches us how to love like Jesus. When it's inconvenient, it's uncomfortable. When it costs something, you're going to get cold, you're going to get wet. But if you're willing to go out of the way, you're going to find children that are worth the effort. Seeds that grow deep roots and stories that echo into eternity. You never know what God is doing beneath the surface. Like a certain children's book reminds us, if you want to catch beasts you don't see every day, you have to go places quite out of the way. You have to go places no others can get to. You have to get cold, and you have to get wet too. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Just start. Invite someone, knock on a door, offer a ride. Fill up your little Ford Ranger, because somebody's eternity might be shaped by your consistency. That's it for this episode of the Sunday School Junkie. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all those things, but most importantly, share it with someone in kids ministry. Let's build a community of passionate teachers who are reaching this next generation. And if you're looking for more great children's ministry resources, I highly recommend checking out the Apostolic Podcast Network for even more amazing content. Till next time, keep loving, keep teaching, keep making a difference.